In our high school years, my older brother and I found employment at a diminutive restaurant nestled within an outlet shopping center. Despite both assuming the roles of waiters, the petite nature of the establishment necessitated our involvement in a myriad of tasks, ranging from dishwashing to deliveries, a collaborative effort to meet the restaurant's demands. However, the symbiotic work dynamic was destined to shift. After a mere year of toiling, my brother, having successfully graduated high school, opted for the collegiate path, bidding adieu to our shared workplace. Determined to persist, I continued my tenure at the restaurant, a decision that would set the stage for an unforgettable and somewhat disconcerting sequence of events. It was a Friday evening, and I found myself scheduled for a later shift than my customary weekday hours. The restaurant extended its operational hours until midnight, a fact I seldom encountered due to my school commitments that typically saw me leaving by 8 or 9 in the evening. This particular night, however, held a different fate as I was designated to close alongside the manager. The evening unfolded predictably until 10:30, when an unexpected delivery request disrupted the tranquil routine. By 11 o'clock, I was navigating through the city streets towards the provided address, blissfully unaware of the unnerving twist that awaited me. A phone call from my manager revealed a mistake. The customer had supplied the wrong address. Tasked with the responsibility of rectifying the error, I dutifully adjusted the GPS to accommodate the new location. As I traversed the roads, a disconcerting realization gripped me. The address was not merely a minor detour, but a substantial 25-minute deviation from my intended route. Questions loomed, questioning the validity of the order had the correct address been provided initially. Yet, despite the nagging doubts, I pressed on. The journey led me to the outskirts of town, where the once bustling cityscape gave way to idyllic grassy fields and solitary trees. Arriving at the specified address, a row of uninviting single-story homes greeted me, their lights extinguished in the engulfing darkness. An unsettling stillness pervaded the air. Approaching the designated door with trepidation, I knocked, met only with an eerie silence. Minutes passed, amplifying my discomfort. Deciding to abandon the futile endeavor, I set the food down and turned to retrace my steps. However, a disconcerting sight awaited me. A man, obscured by the shadows, stood ominously behind my car, peering into the window. Frozen in uncertainty, I attempted communication, but the man remained motionless. A growing unease compelled me to survey the surroundings, revealing nothing but the looming darkness and silent trees. As the mysterious figure finally retreated, standing a few feet from the door, my instinct screamed caution. Approaching the door cautiously, I entered the residence, only to be met with unexpected chaos. The man outside began screaming, directing my attention to the approaching figures in the woods. A realization dawned. This was a setup, a perilous trap unfolding before me. Swiftly retreating, I narrowly escaped their clutches, leaving behind a cacophony of yells. Law enforcement was summoned, yet the subsequent investigation yielded few answers. The house meant for the delivery was not only vacant, but had long been abandoned, left to decay over the past decade. The identity of the mysterious orderer and the intentions of the enigmatic group remained shrouded in uncertainty. The events of that night left me haunted by unresolved questions, pondering the myriad ways in which a slight deviation in the script could have altered the course of my existence. In my 20s, I held a position as an overnight lead at a local retail store, distinct from the conventional big chain grocery outlets. This establishment boasted only about 8 or 9 locations, creating an environment where, on most nights, I found myself accompanied by an overnight stalker to assist in the duties. However, it wasn't uncommon for me to navigate the entire shift alone, given the store's modest size. Consequently, the working atmosphere lacked intensity, often prompting me to deliberately slow down to avoid running out of tasks. During one such night, I embarked on my duties with a steady pace, loading up boxes and maneuvering through the aisles for restocking. engaged in this relatively routine and mentally undemanding activity. My thoughts meandered through random subjects without much focus. 3 aisles into my task, a sudden knock at the front entrance jolted me. Initially, in my spaced-out state, I almost dismissed it, but a subsequent louder knock echoed through the store, demanding attention. Approaching the front windows, I beheld a hooded figure standing at the doors. Politely, I conveyed through the glass that the store was closed and wouldn't reopen until 8:00 a.m. The man, silent, continued to gaze at me, prompting me to point to the closed sign on the door for emphasis. Despite my efforts, he remained still for a few more seconds before turning and walking away. Observing his departure, it struck me as odd, though I attributed it to a simple mistake. Resuming my stalking duties, the evening progressed until 2 a.m., at which point I decided to take my lunch break. After a leisurely half hour in the break room, I returned to resume work. As I reached the end of the aisle, a chilling encounter unfolded. A man casually walking past, seemingly oblivious to my presence. Instinctively frozen, I listened intently as his footsteps headed toward the side of the building I had just vacated. A surge of fear washed over me as I sought refuge behind the shelves. The footsteps now indicated movement toward the break room, but just before I could venture out to seek help, the man abruptly rushed out. His sprinting footsteps resonated through the store, drawing nearer. Panicking, I sprinted to the other end of the aisle, glancing back to witness the man turning in, sprinting toward me. With shaky hands, I fumbled to unlock the front door, managing to escape just in time. As I stepped out, a bright flash caught my eye, accompanied by a deafening pop, an unmistakable gunshot. The sheer intensity left my ears ringing, and I sprinted around the building for safety. Huddled in my car's back seat, I dialed 911. Fortunately, the man didn't pursue me outside, disappearing before the police arrived. Upon investigation, the authorities uncovered signs of forced entry, a damaged back door, and heavy tools left behind. The most harrowing discovery was the gunshot hole near the front doors. The motive behind the intrusion and the aggressiveness directed at me remained shrouded in mystery. The police leaned towards a possible mental breakdown or psychotic episode, lacking a clear reason for singling me out, except for my solitary presence. In the aftermath of this traumatic incident, I chose to part ways with that workplace. However, the lingering impact persisted for years, keeping me on edge long after I left the unsettling memories behind. On a wintry night, I pulled into the gas station parking lot for my overnight 11 to 7 shift. Despite having been at the job for several months, I wasn't particularly fond of it. The hunt for alternative employment was challenging, and the nocturnal hours aligned better with my personal schedule. Despite the convenience, each night was a struggle, grappling with fatigue throughout every shift. I parked beside my coworker's car, the only other vehicle in the lot, and proceeded to relieve him of his shift. As he departed a few minutes later, the desolation of the night enveloped me. Alone in the quiet station, my manager's list of tasks sat on the desk, seemingly manageable and estimated to take no more than an hour. Eager to stave off drowsiness, I postponed the inevitable, perusing my phone for distraction. Around midnight, an unexpected visitor disrupted the quietude, a car pulling into the station. Glancing out, I spotted an old SUV parked by a pump, its headlights extinguished. Given the snowy conditions, most people refrained from venturing out, making this occurrence stand out. Returning to my phone, I became aware that the SUV had lingered, unattended, for an unusual amount of time. Concerned for the potential occupants enduring the biting cold, I donned my jacket and stepped outside. My suspicion proved correct. The car seemed abandoned. Peering inside and calling out, I received no response. Puzzled, I noticed footprints in the snow leading from the car towards the building. Cold and unwilling to delve deeper at that moment, I retreated inside. only to be startled by a thump emanating from the back. Investigating, I found wet footprints and traces of melted snow, indicative of someone's recent presence. My heart raced as I cautiously approached the supply room, discovering a tall figure with a scruffy beard staring back at me. A wave of fear surged through me, yet my initial reaction was to retreat to the counter. Staring at the doorway in shock, I summoned the courage to discreetly call the police. The ensuing wait felt like an eternity, with no signs of the mysterious figure emerging from the supply room. When the police arrived, their search yielded no trace of the intruder. The strange incident remained unresolved, shrouded in mystery. The man, his intentions, and his current whereabouts remained elusive. The SUV, devoid of any ownership history, added another layer to the enigma. Even after subsequent investigations, the vast, dark field stretching for miles outside the gas station yielded no answers. The cold and windy night left us with an unsolved puzzle, a lingering question mark in the annals of the gas station's history.